On September 11th, I listened to news stories commemorating a number of the rescue heroes from 20 years earlier. And this got me to thinking about patriotism. I reflected somberly, on the sacrifices of so many, for example, the fire department of New York, including its units who asked to be dispatched, its off-duty personnel who reported for duty, its 340 members who lost their lives. I thought of the notion of patriotism. Though I shared a sense of national pride in these people who acted nobly on that day, my bystander pride is not patriotism. Patriotism is their sacrifice, their devotion to others. Leaving ground zero, I think of other heroes of whom we have spoken the last 18 months. Frontline workers, especially medical workers, during the COVID pandemic. They have risked their health and, before the availability of vaccines, their lives, tirelessly helping others during this crush on our medical services, ICUs, ERs, and sadly, morgues. Or not so tirelessly, it turns out, with tremendous burnout among medical workers. Again, we laud their service, but our acknowledgement, celebration, and pride are not patriotism. Their service and sacrifice are. Meanwhile, our pride in them is often paired with an indignation at the people who ignore the reality and urgency of the science, are unperturbed in their lifestyles, and compound the task our medical heroes face. Now, maybe you're with me so far, but will you accompany me one more step? What about climate change? Are there patriots who step up and make the sacrifices and take the steps to fight the crisis, inspiring us with their example? And is there also an indignation at the people who ignore the reality and the urgency of the science, are unperturbed in their lifestyles, and compound the task our climate heroes face? St. Mary's Christian Formation series on climate is using Jim Antall's book, Climate Church, Climate World. Antall argues that the climate crisis is a moral crisis that demands a response from the church. Historically, response to a moral crisis has been costly. Abolitionists faced severe economic and physical retribution, both from government and vigilantes. Resistance to oppressive governments, including the anti-Semitic regime of Hitler's Germany, cost livelihoods and lives. In contrast, sacrifice to fight climate change is relatively mild. Surely we can think of severe sacrifices we might be called to make, but much of the low-hanging fruit to reduce our carbon footprint demands so little of us: some inconvenience or discomfort, a longer commute, foregoing a habit or a vacation, staying at home, and so on. What distinguishes the climate crisis as a moral crisis is that the stakes are so high: the loss of a recognizable Earth, the extinction of our biosphere as we know it, even while the sacrifices demanded of us are so comparatively mild, so comfortable. And we do make a difference. The question is whether or not the actions of a single average human being can make a difference. The question is what difference the sacrifices of an average St. Mary's parishioner can make. Statistically, we emit considerably more carbon than the average European or Chinese, and considerably more than the average Indian or global citizen. Your and my actions as American consumers and voters are among the most powerful on earth. Further, our impact is amplified at this moment of history. We are careening to a cliff. We face mass extinction this century. Yet, we also still have the opportunity to stave off the worst excesses. Some writers describe the year 2021 as a possible turning point where the accumulation of climate awareness and the opportunities we still have left to act mean that sacrifices and lifestyle changes we make in 2021 have tremendous potency. The futility a person might feel about climate change may be justified in another decade or two, but today, urgency is appropriate. There is a scriptural case for personal sacrifice. Indeed, on September 12th, our Sunday morning gospel reading included Jesus' famous directive that we should deny ourselves, take up our crosses, and follow him. So when you have the opportunity to make a sacrifice, take it, do it, embrace it. Do not think of it as loss or deprivation, especially when the cost to you is not your home, physical security, or life, but merely inconvenience or change of habit. Think of personal sacrifice as growth, as a source of meaning. Think of it counterintuitively as a new source of joy. Think of the inspiration you feel from the sacrifices of heroes. Be that inspiration for others. The heroes of 9/11 were largely regular people. A crisis calls. Let us follow suit.